Hello there, welcome back. This is Sheepishly here once again, and today we have a very special video for all of you guys. I'll be going through the 3 best League starter builds for the 3.25 rerun event. That's right, I'm going to take all the learnings we've had in Settlers of Calgar, and I've got 3 build archetypes, I should say. So these are not individual builds, these are kind of a tree of builds. You can have your pick and choice as to what variant you want to go into. As well as the 3 best builds, I've also got another 3 additional honorable mentions. So please do stick it out until the end to see what fun builds you can also play that is perhaps not as meta as the 3 best builds I'm going to be going through. So a word of warning, these are going to be meta builds because, well, they are meta for a reason. They're simply the strongest builds. Going into it, the number 1 build obviously is Trickster. If you've been following my channel, you know that Trickster is the king of Settlers League. It is absolutely an insane build. It is an all-rounder build, the best I would say for the league. It's also a build with infinite scaling. You can start very early, you can scale your build infinitely, so it gives you a nice power progression, which is a nice feeling. It's also a gauntlet winner. Ben and John Rome finished the gauntlet playing the Trickster variant, one of the Trickster variants I should say, for vast majority of it, so you know that it is a crazy build that can survive the gauntlet and take on the hardest bosses and the hardest content of the game. In terms of our progression, it's actually fairly straightforward. So what I have here is that I've divided our progression into different sections, and for each of them, I'm going to be providing different content creators' YouTubes and their passive buildings, just to give some options for you guys as an example and a guide. You guys can always go to POE.ninja to find other variants. Ultimately, it depends on what works for you, but I think if you don't want to do that and do the research yourself, follow these content creators that I've curated the list. These guys are very, very good at making builds, so there's no way for you to go wrong here. So for Trickster, you always want to start with John Rome's Power, Siphon, Miner. I actually started this in Settlers. This is a crazy, crazy league starter because of how much they've buffed Power Siphon in 3.25. Now, this league starter simply does not slow down. Whether it's in leveling or early mapping or tier 16 mapping or tier 17 mapping, you can take it all the way to the end game on just Power Siphon Miner. It is absolutely crazy. Please give this a go. Follow John Rome's YouTube here. He has a 20-minute video explaining the build very nicely, as well as a very detailed path of building for you to look at. But the power ceiling for Trickster lies in Ephemeral Edge, which is a weapon that converts your energy shield into lightning damage. And for this transition, I would say that you definitely want Mage Blood, just so you can solve all your defenses and make a smooth transition. And you want to go for the armor variant first with Aegis Aurora. For those of you guys watching my video, you know that I prefer the evasion variant, but that's actually a much more expensive way of playing this build. Aegis Aurora gives you an easy way of hitting the max resistance cap of 90%, as well gives you block, so it is an insane shield, and it's an easy way of solving your defenses, so you can start to push those very difficult tier 17 maps, as well as farm those uber bosses. For this one though, I would actually start with playing Lightning Strike, and then only transition to Splitting Steel after you get Nimis, which is another big purchase for the build. Can you play Splitting Steel without Nimis? Yes you can, but you'll be just doing a lot less damage. For this variant, I've selected Root 2's Path of Buildings. Root 2 basically is a very great content creator, one of the best build makers. He has a POB 1 and POB 2, which I think POB 1 is more of a budget variant, and POB 2 is more of a late game variant. So do give that a go as well, and see how you guys progress with Root's Path of Building on this one. Now lastly, you want to transition into the Evasion variant after you've crafted a full set of gears. For the evasion variant, there's quite a high gear requirement, so you do have to do a bit of crafting as well as optimization by yourself. And this is why I have a bit of shameless plug. I do have my own build for the evasion variant, which I think is the strongest build of the league. If you go to the next page, I have a YouTube guide for my build. This is the most comprehensive YouTube guide, I think, for the Trickster archetype as well as for the evasion variant. I go through every single piece of gear, how to craft it, how to acquire it, what are the mods you want to get, what are the mods you don't want to get, what are your late game upgrades, the whole shebang. Please give it a watch if you want to play this build. It's going to teach you everything you need to know about it. Alongside with a POB that's fully configured for DPS, for survivability, as well as I have several different variants. I love that word variants. The POB have 7 different variants, depends on what kind of gear you're able to acquire, what level of investment you're able to do. So please do give that a go as well. Lastly, I have a set of Google Slides, so this is what's been presented on my YouTube videos. You guys can have a read of it as well if you prefer to read a guide rather than watching a video about it. So highly recommend if you guys are thinking of starting Trickster. If you guys want to go all the way with the Trickster build, please give this a watch and read. This is gonna help guide you every step of the way into creating one of the best builds of the league, which is definitely what I think this build is. On top of that, I also have a complete series on YouTube of crafting. You can see that it's a crafting for every single gear slot, every single rare gear slot, including the cluster jewel. Look at that. Crafting your own gear is one of the most important things to play the Trickster build because all the gear are simply way too expensive if you buy them. And if you have a look at my videos, I will start with the body armor one. You're going to realize it's actually very straightforward to craft these using recombinations. It is not hard at all. So give that a go. I have a whole library of resources for you guys if you want to play Trickster. Definitely one of the best builds of the league, and it's probably a build you want to play before GGG decides to nerf it to the ground next league, so hey, there you go. If you want to play Trickster, I've got you covered. So moving on to the second variant, the Slayer. The Slayer has two variants. One is Rutu's Frostblades of Catabasis. The second one is Fabgon's Lightning Strike Slayer. Both of them are fantastic builds. Both of them, I would say, are the best farmers of the league. They have a very strong and buttery smooth playstyle actually, the moment you get Relic Caches in Patience. So this is probably the one downside of the build, which is that you kind of need Relic Cache to really push the build to the next level. Yeah, it is what it is. It is a very hotly contested item, early league, so that getting the item might be a little bit difficult. Let's go through Rutu's build first. This is honestly one of the best builds from one of the best build makers. I can say that I've played many Rutu builds in the past, and all of them have delivered for me. And he has a very comprehensive path of buildings. Please give that a read as well, including leveling trees, crafting guides, different going through the acts, going through the maps. This is one of the best path of buildings I've seen, so definitely give that a read. Like I mentioned though, the thing about the build is that there's a slight bottleneck on day 2 and 3. This is really if you're trying to push content that's a little bit beyond your gear level, such as trying to push through tier 17s when your gear simply isn't ready for it. For this build though, but it just goes straight to the moon after you get Relic Cache. It's gonna do insane damage, you're gonna be insanely tanky, you're gonna be insanely fast. So this pair of boots, it's the best friend of this build. Definitely do try to farm and save up for it if you're going for it. And if you feel the build is a bit slow or a bit lacking damage before you get Relic Cache, well, that's the reason. It's night and day, right? Before Relic Cache and after Relic Cache. So Root doesn't really make YouTube guides, but there's a I Love YouTube channel who meows all the time, but it's a good channel. I do like to watch it. Lots of memes there, which is quite good. Here's a little YouTube of Root actually explaining the build, so give that a watch if you're confused by some of the mechanics. Lastly, Root 2 also has a build sheet. So for this one, there's a day-by-day gear progression. It's literally day 1, I did this. Day 3, I did this. Day 5, I did this. Day 17, I did this. So give that a go give that a read as well. This is very much the most comprehensive compendium of resources you can get for playing Frostblades of Catabasis. Absolutely recommend. It's a fantastic build. I've seen Ru have so much success with it. If a cat can play it, you can play it. So give that a go. The other variant is, of course, Fabgon's Lightning Strike Slayer. I think you can also play this as Warden, but I think Slayer is just a better class than Warden. So I think I would still recommend the Slayer. This is definitely one of the best all-rounders for farming. I would even call it build of the league, except of course Trickster Splitting Steel really took off about a week or 2 weeks into Settlers League. So same as Rutu's build, you also need Relic Cache. And similar to Rutu's build, I guess I should mention there as well, you can use Headhunter to cheat progression if your gear is bad. It's a weird way of saying it, but if you're on a farm, very difficult tier 17 maps, Headhunter is pretty much a really good clutch for you to get to that level of gear, that level of damage, that level of tankiness if you don't quite have the gear to do those very difficult maps. I've seen Fabgon farm the most difficult content on this build, which is tier 17 Exiles with Titanic Scarabs. You can definitely have a look at Fabgon's YouTube. He has a very nice YouTube guide for it, very short and succinct, and a very comprehensive path of building as well. So for Slayer, both of them are fantastic. I would personally start with rules build because there's a little bit more support for it if you're not familiar with playing melee, just because on his spreadsheet there's a day-by-day guide. It really holds your hand and takes you through it. But if you're a little bit more kind of experienced and you haven't for some reason played Lightning Strike yet, one of the best skills in the game by the way, go for Fob Guns build. You know how much money the guy makes, one of the best players, one of the best farmers. Turns out he's one of the best build makers as well because his builds always pops off. Maybe a bit on the squishy side, but he always pops off. So there you go. Slayer is fantastic. Definitely a recommendation for me to try it out if you haven't already. Fantastic, fantastic build. On to a third one, Hierophant Archmage. At this point you might be like, hey, you're just listing the most popular builds on POE.Ninja. Yes, I am. And they're the most popular builds for a reason. They're bloody crazy. So Hierophant is actually what I'm going to be starting for the rerun event. Very excited. Let's draw a happy face here. That's me. Gonna be me in Settlers rerun because this is a fantastic build, and the build has one of the most insane late game upgrades, the Torment Wand Enchants. If you haven't played with this, this is something that's likely only gonna be available in Settlers. One of the best enchants, right? I don't think there's ever a more powerful single mod line as the Torment Wand Enchants, and you can get 2 of them. Absolutely crazy. So this one also has a very smooth leveling and early mapping style. You do have a lot of options because the build is very well studied. Garotha and Ziz were 2 fantastic content creators. They both have very nice videos as well as puzzle buildings. I like Garotha's a little bit more, but that's just personal preference. Ziz one's also absolutely fantastic. If you go with Ziz's video and puzzle building, definitely you're going to go through leveling early maps with absolutely no problem at all. This build just does so much damage, as well as being so tanky as well. It's a fantastic all-rounder, and what gets even crazier is that there's a focused stacking variant with Hyperboreus, not sure how to say it. This is a betrayal belt that does stuff when you focus. This is a very interesting concept. I've never played a focus stacking build before, so for the mid-game transition, I am definitely going to be trying this out. So this build I saw from Sushi first, but I think Cash is the YouTuber that actually created the build, so I've linked his video here. Brilliant video going through every piece of gear as well as the tree. I will definitely give this a watch if you want to play the focus stacking variant, and he has a very nice path of building as well. And in fact, he also has an even later game variant with Mageblood, Svalin, endurance stacking. Looks crazy, looks like something I haven't done before. Again, another very nice video. Cash explains things really well. I really like his videos, and of course another nice POB to go with it. Now, Hierophant might seem like the least sexy of the 3 what I call the triumvirate of the Settlers builds between Trickster, Slayer, and Hierophant, because you think, hey, just spellcaster, how good can it be, right? Well, look at this. This is a video from Spicy Sushi's channel. I'm just gonna let the video play and speak for itself. Okay, that's like a 20-second strand map, right? And what's more crazy is that he's actually clearing the packs, right? He's not clearing all of the packs because he obviously skipped half the map, but whenever his Frostblink of Wintry Blast is hitting the packs, the entire pack, it just explodes, right? Because I think, from the path of building, his movement skill, Frostblink of Wintry Blast, has 13 million DPS. His movement skill, on like a 3-link or something like that, can full clear a tier 17 map, besides the bosses of course. 13 million, that's absolutely crazy. Do you see how fast he moved? That's the power of the Ghost Wands. So, of all the things you haven't played this league, give the Ghost Wands a try. They're very expensive, don't get me wrong, they're very expensive, but god, did you see how quickly he was moving? It's faster than a Flicker Strike character. You're playing a Flicker Strike character as a spellcaster, and they're doing hundreds of millions of DPS. Definitely one of the best builds of the league, and I'm gonna give this a go in the Settlers V 2.0 because I haven't had a chance to play this build in a normal Settlers league. Well, there you go. To sum it up, the triumvirate, we have Trickster, which is personally I think the #1 build of the league. Definitely give Trickster a go if you haven't played this one yet. It has a very smooth progression with Power Siphon into Ephemeral Edge. Absolutely crazy build there. Slayer is for those of you who want to just blast. It's buttery smooth. You just need Relic Cash and patience to get yourself going. And once you have that, tier 17, Ubers, nothing can stand in your way. One of the best builds. I would recommend Ruse Frostblades over Fob Guns if you have never played melee skills before. But for those of you who are more experienced, Fob Guns Lightning Strike is probably the way to go, just because it has a little bit more single target damage and lets you push a little bit faster on league start. Lastly, Hierophant. I've never played with Hyperboreas before, never played with the tournament once before. Just gonna be a good time, right? Just gonna be a good time. I'm gonna be blasting the maps. It's gonna be absolutely fun all around for Settlers 2.0. Now, I did mention that I would have 3 honorable mentions. These are all amazing builds in their own right, but I think they're just a little bit less kind of well-rounded, or maybe a bit more difficult to get going than the previous ones. To go through, Red Vials, which is another amazing content creator, he has a Hex Plus Trickster build. Or was it Saboteur? I actually don't remember. Could be Sabo as well. Don't quote me on that. This is actually one of the best builds for day 1 Sanctum farming, and Red Vials was pushing tier 17 on like day 1 or day 2 last league. It is a crazy build with Dissolution of Flesh, which is an interesting mechanic, so that's why it's in honorable mentions. Not everyone likes Dissolution of the Flesh playstyle, but if you do enjoy it, my god, this build is fast, it does infinite damage, and Red Vials is a very nice content creator, so if you ask him questions, he will actually answer your questions, and he gives amazing guides. His POB again is listed out into different upgrades for each day, so you do have a lot of hand-holding for you. So definitely check out Red Vials. You want to play Hex Blast for Sanctum farming or for tier 17 pushing. Very strong build. You can't really mention the best builds of the league without mentioning some version of Strength Stacker. Connor is normally who I go to, with builds that cost like 10 mirrors but have like 10 billion DPS and it's unkillable. So hey, Connor is a very nice endgame build content creator, so give that a watch. I would not league start this just because it's quite difficult to get a strength stacker going as a league start. But hey, if you're up for the challenge, go for it. Lastly, it's a bit different. It's a Penance Brand build from Zebob. He's a Brandmaster, of course. This is also a great Sanctum build. Forgot to mention here. So if you want to play Sanctum, I have listed out 2 amazing builds for it. And the reason why Sanctum is so good is because this is the best farming strategy in League Start. It's a bit unfortunate, but if you want to make money, you gotta do Sanctum. I'm not going to be doing it personally. I'm going to be blasting maps because I like to blast maps. But if you want to make money to get, your build going, Sanctum is the way to go. Zebob has some amazing YouTube videos. I think I linked this one, which is the 20 Divine version. He also have one that's like probably 4 mirrors. So you can give that a watch as well as a very nice path of building to go alongside it. Well, there you go. That's it for the best builds of Settlers of Calgar V2.0, Settlers of Calgar the rerun, the 3.25.2, whatever you want to call it. I'm looking forward to the 7th of November, or the 8th if you're in Australia. It's going to be a bloody great time. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.